And make a check on one.
Yeah, you're recording.
Okay, very good. So what I was saying is, Robert had brought up a point that he's looking for people to deconstruct his theorem because he's not assuming that he's correct, et cetera. And I think that's very noble. But if he's looking for that kind of peer review, I would say that he would need to look to the peer review journals and the mainstream and do all that. And the reason is that that's not the kind of peer review that I want to encourage in the EPMC environment, which is it's an open source cosmology. What I want to encourage people to do is constructive feedback. Um, Obviously, we live in an era of optics and narrative and agenda, and so it's very important that we help each other with marketing, product management, the words, the things that they attack for no good reason. So what if they can't destroy a Terrence McKenna or that other bloke who went on to TED and got censored? If they can't destroy him by fact, what they do is they attack the person and their character, and then they'll say things like, "Oh, that looks like it came off of Facebook or GeoCities or something like that." So one of the things that I really hope for people who decide to volunteer, who are listening to this, they end up doing some kind of research that they help support each other, and that they help build each other up. Because if we do not work together, if we do the same thing that Ben Davidson is doing, where he's isolating himself and putting himself up as the Trampoomba of the alt stream, if we do it that way, then we're not going to build anything. So when I go for these, even the mainstream articles, I try to find ways to build up this community and this cosmology, because it's the one that should be working, because it's not just about the bees, it's about the babies. I mean, if it's hurting the bees, and it's hurting people sociologically, I mean, it can't be good for children to grow up in such a world with disconnected understanding of the force and the ether. And in that vein, I mean, I firmly believe with my CDN theory of health that there is a way to use fields and energy to push even the worst energies out of a person. Now they'll be addicted to it, and they may try to, like, say, become a bully again or become an addict again, but that we can clear those energies out with the right technologies if we can find them. Whether they're solfeggio frequencies or there's something, some other kind of understanding that comes out of either cymatics or, uh, again, electric field signals, that there will be some way to disentangle people from the evil waves. And there's a lot of different kinds of evil waves. And also, I believe people have the right to go and, look at the worst stuff on the internet and get into hateful conversations. That's okay. I mean, they can do that. But my goal is for this cosmology to carry forward a healing wave overall. And when it comes to our peer review, the kind of peer review I want to structure is a volunteer level. I am volunteering to help uh, Robert with his paper, for example, and also I'm peer reviewing this guy's Waldron electrodynamics. And what I do is I tend to like pose questions like, "What are you trying to do here? What do you mean to do here? You might want to put a citation." Um, Now, I'm a lot less attacking than I am with the mainstream, because the mainstream has the ultimate position already. They don't need any help in getting that kind of position, and they need to be challenged in terms of their. Um, it's the punching up, punching down thing. Now, with Ben, I'm a little tougher. With Jimmy, I was very tough because the Rakat Atlantis theory
Right.
is not just wrong; it's harmful to the to the alt stream community for us to have a misunderstanding of the Rakat structure or Rishat. However, generally speaking, I try to be a lot more soft gloves, and I will provide a little bit of feedback here and there. Robert's already attested. Speaking of which, I'm wondering when, Robert, you're going to do that little experiment.
I'm getting the
You said
bits.
you'd do it. Yeah,
I'm
okay,
getting the
good.
bits.
You get those bits.
I'm
You get those bits.
going to go to the local store to get my copper winding. The wife's because we live in a remoter town. You don't have all the fittings, so she's going to go
I see.
down to the week before
All right, fair
Christmas,
enough. I just
going down to a
But
bigger
so-
hardware store and picking up the bolts and the wood and things. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, so
but that's the way I'm looking to peer review you, is to support you, because I want you to get your book published. It's not about tearing you down or anything like that. It's about, do the ideas make sense? I think this Waldron Electric paper is really interesting. I have serious reservations about a lot of the assertions and the assumptions, but overall, it's fairly well made. I'd like to do it. Of course, I did peer review and editing help for Robert for his paper when he wanted to go to take his, school. It was basically a college geology paper, and then he wanted to get it peer reviewed and put out. And I was the first guy who helped him with that. And so it is important to me that we do this kind of work, because nobody else is going to do it. Ben might do it, I don't know, but the thing I've seen is more he's likely to try and take credit for those guys' work. So I'm just saying, there was a kid who did really well in a science competition, and we heard about it from Ben forever. But we do have to find ways of building up the cosmology in the community, because if we don't, we're probably going to not be able to become strong enough, and this is an energetics perspective, to take on the so-called powers that be. And those powers are the ones that have a disconnected science, and they are tearing the planet apart. And I do mean that literally. They're tearing the planet apart. And who knows? Some people think that CERN is really going to tear the planet apart. I don't know what you guys think on that. But I've said my piece on
I think so.
I can give you a little bit of a discussion I had today. So at work this morning, there was about 4 people there that were in their 30s, and they'd been watching. So on the local ABC here, about one night a week now, they have the boy everyone would like to bring home to their daughter, Brian Cox, on, talking all these lovely stuff about everything. And I just turned around and said, he's a nice little fella. He's who you'd like to bring home for you. Anyway, getting to the real facts, I said, all right, those Voyagers. And they go, what's Voyager? I said, you answered the question perfectly. And then they talked about the nuclear sun and how it could blow up and all that. I said, I think you need to go and have a look at a bloke called Wal Thornhill's work and Sapphire. Oh, what's that? I said, well, Wal Thornhill's an Australian for a start. He's not from the Royal London Society. So I've sent them a couple of videos on it, and I'll see what they come back with, because I always think, oh, this whole bugger, this shit's stirring us. But that's the biggest problem, is getting the word out, I think, and quietly just chipping away at it.
I think what our job is to.
There's plenty of information. There's plenty of information around, Rob. Sorry. There is plenty of information around, and like you say, I'll let you go now. Sorry.
We're dropping seeds.
You go, Rob.
We're Johnny
That's
Appleseed. Right. We're Johnny Appleseed. We're bloody planting apples everywhere, apple trees everywhere, so that people can walk from one town to the other and not starve. In terms of the society we have, the control freak society, which is destroying the planet, they're going to self-destroy. All right, so their system is doomed, completely doomed. And I was watching a Hopi video this morning that someone posted in one of the news groups, where they're talking about, the blue star Kachina and all the rest of it. And I found it interesting because on the 16th, 17th of this month, if you look in the direction of Saturn, you will see a comet. And that looks like it's going to be a blue star. So, what is the blue star Kachina and the change that's occurring and all the rest of it? We keep getting in our modern time, if we look carefully enough at what's going on, we start to see the evidence of all these old mythologies about how perspective, its direction is going to be at a tipping point. And I think now we're at the beginning of a tipping point. And during that tipping point, there's going to be a lot of chaos and destruction. But at the end of it, there'll be some survivors. Whether I'm among the group or not, I don't matter. But if the ideas that we're talking about survive, then maybe the grandchildren will have a better future, which is what our real purpose is. You know, people misunderstand what giving your children a better world really means. It's not about giving them, you know, the fancier house and the ritzy car and all the rest of it and the big cash load pot. What it's about is giving them a world in which they can achieve the goals they have in individually. It's not about the corruption of what giving a better world to your kids is all about. So the way I see it is we've got to equip the future with the capacity to survive, which is, you know, why I'm going to do that experiment. You know, sure, it might be clickbait. Sure, it might be clickbait, but if it works, bloody hell. I'll tell you right now, the female charge in this house wants that bloody device because our lights don't work reliably because there's issues with the electrical.
Which one are you doing, Rob? Which experiment are you working on?
I'm going to do the one with a circular magnet and a free energy experiment. An LED light. Jesus. An LED light and a socket. I got the socket. I got the LED light. Two wires come out of it into a coil, annealed copper coil. On
I remember. Don't build it till you're recording, right? Like just have all the parts.
Yeah, on a 3-inch length bolt with 3 nuts and wire and all the rest of it. So there's 2 of those. And what I'm going to do is create a little cage for the magnet, the round magnet with a hole in it. So I'm going to put a 3mm plywood under the bolt, and so that the magnet, when I turn the light upside down, it doesn't fall onto the bolt. So yeah, I'm going to do that. And if it works, hey, I can light the house without having to bloody switch on a light switch. If I don't want the light, then I just take the magnet out. But you know, there's
now on Dan Winter's channel, he had a fella talking the other week about whereby now I didn't quite understand it all, but they were talking about where you can light LEDs off a fluoro light.
Yep.
Through the radiation from the fluoro light.
Yep. Tesla was looking at a type of electricity called radiant electricity, which it's not wireless electricity. It's not radio frequency. It's something different. But the Wallcliff Tower was supposed to be a generator, and what he was trying to do is transmit electricity from New York to England or somewhere in Europe and light up light globes. And there are YouTube videos out there where these guys have built their Tesla coils and got their fluorescent globes or their ordinary ones, the ones with filaments, and jammed them into the ground at distances away, and sure enough, they light up. There's no bloody wires. There's just the ground and the air, and that's it. So there's been a lot of argument in mainstream about, you know, earthquake lights and earthquake electricity and lightning and storm systems. You know, when people tell me that a tornado is a low pressure event, you know, it's formed by an extreme low pressure environment, I'm thinking, well, okay, you can believe your myth, but I know for a fact that the tornado comes with electrical discharge. You don't avoid that bit. And water is a very effective conductor, and it weighs a lot more than the air. So why does it float in the air? You know, why do birds fly? Because their wings pump up or down, or because they've got a massive electrical charge that repels them from the surface? You know, Your bumblebee isn't supposed to be able to fly. It's an impossible dynamic. Well, it's there flying. You come up with clearly your aeronautics understanding and theory doesn't work. There's the evidence that it doesn't work. You know, there's a bee that shouldn't fly that's working.
Yep.
Speaking of the kids being the future, I am very excited. And although it's going to be private, and obviously this won't go public, perhaps some of the people, if they know me well enough, I'll supply them a link. I'm very excited about the presentation.
You're still recording, Ramon.
I just want to. Yeah, I know, but I just want to let people know like what they're in store of if you get a chance to actually watch their presentation, and if not, you can pick up the recording. Just a little advertisement. Two of them have made three-dimensional CAD designs of their spaceship ideas. One of them has made a video game using Unreal Engine 5. The other one has used Minecraft. And they've all made really cute slideshows. One of them more of a fictional slideshow and speculative. And the two older boys have actually read from my papers. So Aaron read the Berkeley Polyphase Superweb paper because it's very graphical. And Orion read part one, the entire part one of the Conquering the Solar System paper. So his slideshow is much more like about presenting some kind of facts. It's kind of academic, whereas the second one's slideshow is all about, you know, it's more like a story and, you know, the aliens, etc. And it is just the cutest thing. And I can't wait to get it working. It'll be a technical thing, getting it all set up in the day. And I'm just extremely proud to this cosmology so interests them and excites them. And now somebody has passed me, and I will pass this information on before I hang up and go and get pull the patient. There is something called a Kerbal Space Program, and I will take and I will post when I upload this video later today. Apparently, it's sort of like a Lego Minecraft space game, and apparently it's a little challenging, but extremely fun. And the guy, he's a full-grown adult, was very excited about it, went on and on about it. So we're going to actually be getting into that. I also want to get them back into playing with Universal Sandbox as well. So children can absolutely soak this stuff up, and it falls back to our point that we were making on the long show that we did Sunday, that people can do these experiments. And if you have trouble, if you're in the audience and you have trouble coming up with experiments to do, whether for yourself or with kids, then just reach out and ask. We will tell you some simple experiments. There's also a bunch, if you want to go on eBay and purchase some Hawkins field guides, there are a bunch of little experiments in the volume 1 and 2 of those Hawkins field guide. And plus you have now a piece of historical artifact from a time in which they really understood electricity. They were starting to understand it in the correct way, and they weren't just making up words like flux ropes and things like that. So it's a really nice way to get. There's very simple experiments that you can use, for example, to satisfy yourself if there aren't actual field lines. You can tie a string to a piece of metal and actually use the field, and you can see how the magnetic field is continuous. But little experiments like that, they add up, and children really love doing them. And so I just want to put the plug out for all those things, and hopefully we can get together. By the way, Andy, I will take and I will upload the bit about the snakes as a short on the channel. I've never used that feature, so I don't know. People can hear about.
You better ask Rob what snakes he's got over there. You better ask Rob what snakes he's got over there. What have you got over there, Rob?
Quickly.
We have. Well, we got the carpet snakes that go after mice, but we've got the deadly ones that you don't want to be stepping on, like the copperhead and pythons and a few others. Yeah, so if you're out in the Australian bush, the sort of boots that you wore in the First World War, which is real boots, leather boots with leg ankle protectors. if you're walking around in the bush in high grass, you wear that, or otherwise you're going to get bit, and yeah, life is not going to be so great. You know, Texans only have to worry about, the people in the west, in the arid areas of America, only need to worry about the rattlesnake and a few things like that. But here we've got a few more. So swimming in the water in the north is, you got snakes that can kill you if they bite you, and you got the crocs that'll eat you. So you got to be, just a little bit careful.
What you're saying is, when I'm feeling down about the world, Australia's a good time.
Yeah, well, it's just we got, a large collection of poisonous spiders and snakes and reptiles that will cause you trouble if you mess with them. It's not just bees and the hornets. And we don't. Okay,
Give them respect.
we don't have the skunk. We've got the
you know what scares Americans the most? It's the spiders. That's what.
Yeah, the spiders. Yeah, the spiders here.
They're scared to death of the Australian spiders.
I had a huntsman.
I've got a roll. You guys feel free to keep talking. I'm gonna hit the stop record.